Shalom, Yasharala. This your brother Dawada, coming back at you with this here truth again. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushua, Bahashim, Rakakudash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and never will. And salutation and much love for you, Akim, pushing this truth and sincerity over the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. So I want to jump into this here article real quick. We seen in this here new year, things are upticking, throughout the, the New Year celebrations, and you had a lot of different places that were having these so-called uprisings and uproars of the people, protests and things like that. All right, but here, as we can see, I'm going to read a little bit of this here article, but nevertheless, going into some of the backbones of these uproars of these people in this situation is going into what, people are already squeezed tight economically. All right. And then it's also, it's harder and harder for people to get just the resources that they need to live a normal life. All right. So these people are squeezed so tight, they're to the point that they're, outlashing with backlash. All right. So it says gun battle in Kansas City after the government begins counter-terrorist op. All right, it says 8 police and military killed, over 300 injured in Wednesday's violence so far, the Kaz Interior Minister says. Reports and videos of intense gunfire coming from the streets of Kazakhstan's largest city, Almaty. This is after the government launched a counter-terrorist operation blaming foreign-trained groups for chaos in the city. Now, you would think just by reading this here article that, it's possibly some terrorism things going on, which, it could be, but nevertheless, as we read this here article, going further into it, there's a couple different articles that's, coming out over these scenarios, but we're going to get to a little bit. It says airport takeover, palace fire, and promise of tough response. Here's how Kazakhstan's unrest escalated. It says the Central Asian state continues its apparent descent into chaos as street protests triggered by hike in gas prices grow increasingly violent. All right, let me keep reading a little bit. It says the situation in Kazakhstan took a sharp turn for the worse on Wednesday as several cities saw violent unrest with administrative buildings stormed, presidential residence set on fire, and the main airport allegedly seized. All right, now granted, like I said, there could be some quote unquote organized crime going on, organized, trying to overthrow things. But nevertheless, they're going back into, let me read this next paragraph. It says the protests began after a twofold hike in the price of liquefied petroleum gas at the start of the new year. All right. And, there were some articles about this a couple days back, but nevertheless, now we see how far this is actually escalating to. All right. When people are squeezed so tight, man, and we have basically the same situation boiling over throughout all of the globe. Here in America, you're starting to see different things, not necessarily over the gas, but, just a lot of people losing their jobs with these mandates. All right. And also, things and regular resources, whether it be food and things like that, are actually going up. Resources are harder and harder to find and come across. All right. A lot of people are actually in a bad state right about now, man. All right, just in my, everyday walk in life, just going to work and things like that, seeing a lot of these folks that are, so-called well off, they're actually having to downsize and do a lot of these different things and move. And, they're not in a so-called happy spirit anymore. All right. So, hey, man, the city of mirth is gone over here for America, and how much more around the rest of the globe, man. All right. Where, America's dwelling carelessly over here. And, the saying is pretty much if these Americans feel it over here, how much more the rest of the people around the globe. But nevertheless, these are the things that's foreshadowing to come over here to the streets of America, man. All right. You already have those situations like out in California and stuff where the people are running up into these little stores and just snatching stuff. Right. And you have more and more crime that's going on out there. People are always saying, hey, it's hard times out here, man. So, you got to be careful with what you out here doing and how you carrying yourself. And, especially for a lot of these people that are posting up their so-called good life on the internet. The next thing you know, they're getting their houses, what they call home invasions and things like that, man. All right. You have these so-called celebrities and stuff having these home invasions and people following them home because they know they're in the well-off neighborhoods and things like that, man. All right. But things are only going to get that much more worse. And how much more, you also have things, like we just pretty much in the, the year anniversary, pretty much of that January 6th, situation. All right. But nevertheless, these people pretty much have had it, man. All right. And this is pretty much the response that people have once they've been backed into the corner and squeezed dry for so long. All right. It says the protests began after a twofold hike in price of liquefied petroleum gas at the start of the new year. The price cap that had existed in the country for years had turned LPG into an extremely popular type of fuel, widely utilized both in household and in road vehicles, where it is commonly converted to be used instead of the conventional gasoline. All right, it says in a matter of days, the unrest spread across the nation, growing increasingly political and violent. It says emergency. Let me read a different one. It says chaos gripped Kazakhstan's largest city. Despite the measures, street violence has continued across multiple Kazakh cities. The situation has become especially chaotic in Almaty, with a group of violent protesters storming local administration and other government buildings and setting them on fire. Footage circulating online shows that the law enforcement agent appears unable to bring the situation under control. All right, and we can think of some precepts to talk about this. The sedition among men and invading one another, not regarding their kings or their princes. All right, so hey, man, hey, really, the vision is for an appointed time, and now we're starting to see these things, walk up off the page. All right, it says footage circulating online shows the law enforcement agents appear unable to bring the situation under control, with multiple police and emergency service vehicles having themselves been torched. Demonstrators have seen chases and beating police officers and soldiers, with some apparently having their firearms removed. All right. And we know that, this was, you almost had a preview of these types of situations, on, last year at the Capitol building or whatever. But nevertheless, that was pretty much peaceful. That wasn't like, people wasn't really getting shot or anything else like that. Of course, one lady, I believe, got shot. But nevertheless, on top of that, it was just pretty much a lot of ruckus and chaos and screaming and stuff like that. But hey, things are getting way worse. Like I said, that was over a political uproar or whatever. But nevertheless, when it comes down to these resources, when people can't afford to eat anymore, this is what they wind up backlashing out with, man. All right, and things are pretty much building up in the same somewhat the same conditions here in America, man. More and more people are losing their jobs, especially with these the pandemic situations going on, and more people getting sick, man. All right, so hey, man, you seen like right now, especially like a huge uptick of so-called people getting sick and businesses having to shut down for these things. I happened to see a gas station the other day that's typically open throughout the daytime. They were shut down because of a lack of staff, man. All right, and so people are out here. Some people are there was an article not too long ago about a record number of people leaving the workforce out here in America. But nevertheless, this is all putting a strain, on people's so-called way of life, man. All right, which is, going to make the love of many wax cold. So they're not going to really care about the next person and the things they got going on, man. All right. It says, let me jump down. Presidential Palace storm. The old presidential palace located in Almaty has not been spared during the unrest. The crowd has breached the perimeter, setting the building ablaze, while the facility has not been used by the head of state for years, since the capital was moved from Almaty to Nur Sultan, formerly known as Astana. It maintains its status. All right. It says the Almaty airport captured by protests. Late on Wednesday, protesters reportedly breached and took over the Almaty International Airport, the state major passenger and cargo hub, local media reported. Its representative said that the statement to the Telegram news channel that some 45 invaders had assumed control after the military officers guarding its perimeter had reportedly left their posts. All passengers have been evacuated, they said, and flights to Almaty have been canceled or diverted by multiple airlines across the world. All right, so hey, these things, are pretty much a almost like an everyday occurrence, throughout the globe, where these people are how do you say, uprising and protesting against their governments. All right, and they've pretty much had enough. All right, it seems like, throughout the whole globe, these governments are, coming down with how they call a so-called tyranny, whether it be with, certain mandates and things like that, or just, the hyperinflation and things like that. So the people's regular way of life, all right, as they know it, is coming to an end. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into some scriptures real quick. We're going to start here in the book of Isaiah chapter 24. I'm going to start at verse 7. It says, the new wine mourneth, the vine languish, all the merry hearted do sigh. All right, and so for the last couple of years, I believe it was 2019, one of them years they had that song, I'm living my best life. Everybody here in America was out here turned up and doing it all big and everything else like that, man. All right, but then you had the pandemic come around and the lockdowns came. All right, then people was forced to stay at home. All right, then you started seeing a lot of these mom and pop businesses go out of business. All right, and then over time, you had more and more people started quitting their jobs to get these so-called stimulus checks and unemployment checks to try to live off of that for a while. All right. But then, there was even more of an uptick of those things, which is putting a strain onto the, the so-called system to provide for these funds, man. All right. Then you starting to see what, the so-called shipping debacle. All right. And the strain in their system. All right. Which is putting a price hike onto a lot of these goods that, the average everyday American will be, their regular necessities and things like that, your food and everything else like that. You're starting to see these, more and more bare shelves at the grocery store in certain cases. All right. And then in some other cases, people aren't really taking notice of it. But hey, the prices of the food and things that you, normally buy inside the store is going up, man. All right. But these things are how do I say, are all, been put in the works from, the things you see in the effects of today. All right, the how do I say, the seeds of them have been planted before, and you now starting to see these things start to take place. So hey, the things that were planted last year and the year before, you're gonna start seeing those things take place over here now. All right, so hey, a lot of these people are pretty much upset. They're starting to realize that things aren't gonna go back to the way that they were. All right, a lot of people was had the mindset that, oh, this is all gonna be over. When they was first saying, hey, look, let us just the safer at home situation. We'll just all take 2 weeks off, for everything, and then hopefully things will die down. Well, that was like 2 years ago or something like that, man. All right, and things hadn't got any better; they're only getting worse. All right, so people it's starting to set it into their minds now. They was sold false dreams and false hopes that if they participated in certain events and things like that, all this would go away. Things would just get back to normal. They could go back out and start living it up again. All right, but again, they just keep how they say, extending the goalposts. All right, you take this and then you should be fine. All right, well, you're gonna need what they call like an add-on, or how they say in the video game world, a DLC pack to add on to that one. Now you need another DLC, then another one, and another one, and another one. So people are now getting into this realization, especially over here in America, that things aren't going back to normal. All right, you had certain people that were saying hey, we just might as well just listen to what these people are saying, do all this, and you're crazy if you don't do that. We're just trying to get back to normal. It's you people's fault that we're not getting back to normal. Well, some of those people's mindsets and their sentiments are changing, realizing that, hey, it's nothing that they can do now. It's pretty much just going downhill, man. All right, so you start to see a lot more people into this depressed state, to where it's just like, hey, man, first that depression sets in, and then they realize things aren't coming back. Then what do you think they're going to wind up doing, man? Rebelling, man. All right, so let's keep reading. It says, the mirth of tabret cease, the noise of them that rejoice endeth, the joy of the harp ceaseth. All right, so hey, man, you had a lot of these people that used to go out to the clubs and party and turn up on the weekends and things like that, man. All right, you still see Jake doing that foolishness, but Jake is on a whole nother level. But nevertheless, with these other folks that used to go out on the regular weekends and go and do parties and things like that, man, you see a lot less and less of these scenarios taking place, man. All right, because hey, people really don't have those so-called resources to do all those things like they were doing beforehand, man. All right, these people are just trying to get their everyday, their meal for the end of the week, man. All right, you having people that were so-called retired and or living off a certain type of system, all right, having to go to work right now. I know a person right now that, they were living, I don't know how they was living, maybe off Social Security or something like that. But nevertheless, they had to go back into the workforce, and they're just trying to hold down a job at your local Chick-fil-A, working a couple hours out the week and can't even afford to, put gas in their car, man. All right, and so, they had to downsize their house once. Now they had to try to downsize again. All right, but hey, and then their everyday, how do I say, their everyday countenance is just pretty much brought to a low state now, man. All right, but hey, a couple years ago, they was all, happy-go-lucky, sitting around and everything else like that, and, just being joyful. But now you see them every damn day. It's just like, hey, man, they're just in a rut, man. They're in a depressed state. All right, let's continue on. It says, the mirth of tabret ceaseth, the noise of them that rejoice endeth, the joy of harp ceaseth. They shall not drink wine with a song, strong drink shall be bitter to them that drink it. And this is another thing that's going on right now, man. All right, the rise of alcohol and drug overdoses is skyrocketing right now, man. All right, why do people result to these things, man? It's not because, some people, younger folks typically do. They'll, turn to these things for a so-called party time. All right, but nevertheless, a lot more people, when they get older, they so-called lean on these things out of depression. Things are going bad for them. So now they're sitting at the bar and everything else like that, man. You can go in. Hey, man, I sometimes in the morning, heading out to work and everything else like that, going into, go gas up and everything else like that. Hey, I see people in there buying beer early first thing in the morning, I'm like, man, what you need beer this early for? But nevertheless, you know, you look at the looks on their face, and they all got that long face, man. All right, these people are just out here pretty much in a bad state, man. All right, but it's gonna only, you know, things are just gonna only get worse from here, man. All right, you know, these people had the hopes of things was gonna bounce back, but hey, you see what's going on now, man. All right, it says the city of confusion is broken down. Every house is shut up that no man may come in. There's a crying for wandering in the streets. All joy is dark and the mirth of the land is gone. Hey, man, people are out here looking for answers, man. People are out here looking for help. People are out here looking for, you know, a new way. All right. You know, I'm seeing more and more people, you know, in areas where you normally wouldn't see so-called homeless people, but they out here with their little signs. Hey, I need work, need this, need that. Got me and my whole family out here with our little signs and everything else like that. It's like, hey, man, you know, this is, you know, you seeing more and more people increasingly like this. As a matter of fact, at work today, you know, I work out pretty much into these high-end Edomite neighborhoods and things like that, gated communities and things like that, man. And I seen this lady that was kind of parked on the side of the road, and she was just parked there, you know, for a while I was in the little area, and I was there for like maybe an hour dealing with a couple different customers. But, you know, walking past her car, it looked like she had a lot of her belongings in her car, like she might have been living in her car. All right, now this was a lady probably in, you know, mid-40s, or probably older than that, man. All right. And like I said, this was a so-called gated neighborhood where it's way better off Edomites living and everything else like that. You know, a lot of them probably retired and, you know, pretty well off. But like, damn, did you get evicted? And you know, what you got going on over here where you look like you just living in your car? You know, and I've seen a couple people walk by trying to see if she was all right and everything else like that. But hey, man, you know, things aren't looking so well for a lot of these people out here, man. So, you know, when things get even worse, man, you know, people are already upset with this here government. You got those people putting those little stickers out saying, you know, I did this to this and that. Hey, man, people are you know, pretty much in a financial bond right about now, man. All right. It says, verse 11 again, it says, there's a crying for wandering in the streets. All joy is dark and the mirth of the land is gone. All right. So, hey, man, the mirth of this here place where people were sitting out here having, you know, what they say, living their best life. All right. And living, you know, just living it up and just not having a care in the world. All these things now, you know, are turning on them. You know, people beforehand didn't have to worry about where they was going to get their next paycheck from. Like I was just explaining about one of my customers. I didn't, you know, been working for them for a couple years now, you know, and seeing them from, you know, every week I would go by their house. They're just sitting out back and chilling and hanging out and everything else like that and living it up to like now you got to go get a job at Chick-fil-A, you know, and you can barely stand and you're just going through some pains and everything else like that, just trying to put gas in your car and groceries on your table, man. All right, things are getting bad out here, man. All right, and they're not even, you know, these people aren't in no type of situation to get up and, you know, they can barely only, you know, stand a couple hours out the day. You know, they're not really in a situation when things really, really get tough to try to, you know, have to deal with the so-called struggles of life, more or less to say, man, where they have to get out way. Might have to go get 2 and 3 jobs, man. All right. Again, they can barely work one job, one little part-time job, man. All right. Let's continue on. It says, the city is left desolation and the gates smitten with destruction. All right. And so, hey, this is where we at right now, man. All right. Where you're starting to see a lot of these places being shut down, a lot of places being closed down. A lot of people are getting 2 and 3 jobs. All right. Or trying to pick up these little side gigs and everything else like that, man. A lot of these people are pretty much in a state of mourning. Are they in a state of calamities? They're in a state of, you know, how you say, trials and tribulations, economic woes, man. All right, let's continue on. Let's go to 2nd Ezra 15. Oh, matter of fact. So, okay, let me, this is, 2nd Ezra 16 and verse 17. It says, woe is me, who will deliver me in those days. All right. The beginning of sorrows and great mourning, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of war and the power shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils, what shall I do when these evils come? It says, behold, famine and plague and tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for an amendment. All right. So, hey, the beginning of sorrows, great mourning. All right. And the beginning of famine. All right. So, hey, this is like the state that we're coming into right now, man. The beginning of sorrows, mourning, all right, where people, you know, the mirth of the city is gone. Well, all these people now are just walking around. It's like, nah, I don't really want to go out this year. I don't really want to do all this and that. You know, hey, even with the, you know, the so-called Christmas time that just went by, man. All right, you didn't really see these people weren't in the same spirit as they used to be with all the big, huge decorations and all these different things like that, man. A lot of these people were just so-called, you know, just quote unquote happy to be alive, man. All right, it was like, man, we didn't really do too much this year, and so on and so forth. We didn't really have too much, and it is what it is, man. All right, so the whole spirit of this here place is pretty much shutting down, man. All right, it says, let me go over here. Oh, well, let me go back to this. Hey, it says, verse 21, it says, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon the earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case. And even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. All right. So, hey, going into, this time last year, all right, you pretty much had all these stimulus checks going out and people were getting all this here so-called PPP money and everything else like that. People was turning up, man. But now you look a year later and people are out here trying to, put 2 pennies together to go get them a little pack of noodles, man. All right. But again, the squeezing is only going to get tighter and tighter and tighter, man. People are going to be put into more and more desperate situations, man. All right. People are going to have to start moving and downsizing even more. All right. So let's go to 2 Ezra 15 and we'll start at verse 14. It says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword in their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. So like in the article we were just reading, man, this is what the people started doing, man. They started taking it in, things into their own hands, man. They're like, oh man, because of, the price of gas is pretty much went up twice. And I believe that he was talking about how it was capped at a certain price. But just imagine the things that you were normally used to paying for, let me think of some things, I don't know, $1 for a bag of ice, you know what I'm saying? Or, how they had, well, I don't know how much they cost, but, you got the little vending machines with the little sodas in the vending machines, right? Let's just say they 50 cents or something like that, man. Imagine you going to the little vending machine and now that the 50-cent sodas are now $5, man. All right, people would be in an uproar. Or you go to like your Applebee's, they got the 2 for $20s or whatever, and you go to the next time and it's like, yo, you can get 1 for $50. All right, you go, we even seen these things. I don't know, I ain't been to McDonald's in a while, but this was some news some while back where they were trying to get rid of the dollar menu and things like that, man. All right, imagine going to these places and this is the new norm, man. All right, you can't go inside the grocery store and come back out without spending $50 for 3 items. All right, you can't get you some eggs, milk, and whatever else you get, you know what I'm saying, for less than $50, man. All right, people are starting to feel, again, the financial squeeze tightening around their neck, man. And again, you have, like I said, with the unemployment rate rising up, all right, and these resources drying up for these people, man. Hey, things is, only going to get worse, man. All right. And like I said, when you look around the globe at these anti-lockdown protests and all these mandate protests and things like that, man, and even, with these the article we read today, it all is going back to what, a strain on people's resources and their money, man. All right. So people are being backed into a corner. All right. To the point now where they're just coming out lashing, man. All right. So let's continue on. It says, for there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, in the course of their actions shall stand in their power. So, hey, going into just what we read in their article, man, those people started storming the ex-presidential palace, all right, their governmental buildings and agencies. They was like, look, man, the government don't care about us no more, man. The government then, took away all of our so-called rights or our way of living because, hey, man, they just raising up the prices on everything, man. So we can't afford anything. What are we left to do out here, man? All right. And so, hey, you start seeing when people get hungry, they get desperate for things. We seen that happen in we seen it happen some years back in Venezuela. All right. Where, hey, the people was out there storming the governmental trucks when they was throwing out bags of rice and everything else like that, man. Just trying to get them some food, man. And they was out there rioting and protesting. Look at what's going on in California, man. All right. They've raised the so-called price of, basically saying, hey, look, anything under $950 is not really punishable by that much in crime, man. You can steal that and, your charges is a slap on the wrist. So now you having these people out here robbing these high-end stores, running up onto these high-end restaurants and robbing the people that's out there, man. But again, it's only going to get worse, man. All right, you're going to start seeing this in all walks of life or all levels of life, more or less to say. It says, because of their pride, oh, Salat. Verse 16, for there should be sedition among men and invading one another. They should not regard their kings nor princes, in the course of their actions stand in their power. All right. And like I said, we just saw that in their article. It says, and a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled and the houses shall be destroyed and men shall be afraid. All right. So, hey, man, once you have certain places in America already where they have they tried to have a so-called no police zone. All right. You have places like Skid Row. All right. You have more and more, how they say, impoverished places popping up around America, man. Places that used to be so-called thriving and things like that turn into, hey, look at any of these major cities where you have conditions like how they call like Chirac, right? Out there in Chicago, look at those types of places. The one thing that they all have in common is what? A lack of resources, man. Do you think that all those young boys would be out there killing up each other and selling drugs to one another if they can go to their local McDonald's? Not to say that this is a smart idea, but they can go to the local McDonald's and make $25 an hour, because most people say, oh, they need a raise in the minimum wage, but they just don't realize it's going to just make things more expensive. But however, the point is I'm trying to make is if they had the resources around them, all right, to be able to make a decent living, they wouldn't be going out there just doing all that crime like that, man, because they would have like, you know what? I mean, I'm too busy making money and putting a roof over my head and everything's kind of going decent for me right now. I ain't got to be out here selling drugs left and right. That's moving backwards, man. I make more money over here at the drive-thru at McDonald's than I would be trying to push these here packs out here, man. So, hey, these people result to that because of what? A lack of resources, man. A lack of opportunities in their neighborhoods, man. So you starting to see these places also like up in New York and places like that where, hey, the cost of living is super sky high. All right, and they got those mandates up there, where people, some people aren't even trying to abide by those mandates. So what? They're starting to result into crime. All right, California is another hot spot for that, man. All right. It says a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, for because of their pride the city shall be troubled and the houses shall be destroyed and men shall be afraid. All right. And that's what it's going to be like, like, what was it? The governor, somebody out there in California was like, hey, don't come out to California. We cannot protect you out here, man. All right. Because you have people that's running up and snatching purses from restaurants where people are dining outside and things like that, holding folks up, following these celebrities' homes to their wherever they live at, and holding them hostage and robbing them. All right, you had, I don't know if it was a Christmas or a New Year's party where they had some folks pretty much got held up out there, man. All right, this is becoming a normal everyday occurrence out there, man. All right, let's continue on. It says, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of a lack of bread and for great tribulation. And that's the point there, for a lack of bread and great tribulation. All right, a lack of resources. All right, not just because it's the cool thing to do, but it's because they have a lack of resources. Again, you have people that's like a Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk and stuff. Like, you think that man is worried about committing any crimes? He making too much money to go out there and be carjacking anybody and thinking about things like that, man. It's only the people who ain't really got nothing to lose at that point, that time and point where they want to go out and it's like, you know what, I ain't really got nothing to lose. Let me just go and start robbing and stealing and everything else like that, man. So, hey, this is what you're starting to see is the recipe for disaster, more or less to say, man. All right, as the things are starting to get tighter and tighter around here in America. We don't even really know what's coming around the corner in 2022, but we do know that, like the scriptures say, roughly paraphrasing, for great tribulation is coming upon the earth. All right, and also if the times wouldn't be sped up, if time wouldn't be shortened, there would be no flesh saved. So things are getting into a dire situation, dire straits out here, man. All right, and this is how the people are going to react. Let me read it again. 2 Ezra 15 and 19, it says, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of a lack of bread and for great tribulation. And like I was saying about, those folks out there in, the Hollywood Hills and things like that, you got these celebrities now getting followed home and getting robbed and things like that, man. Hey, man, people are getting desperate out here, man. All right, they're running up in the Gucci stores and Louis Vuitton stores. Granted, you can't eat none of that stuff, but hey, when it get time to they can't even afford no food, what do you think they're going to be running up into next, man? All right, they're going to be running up in the grocery stores and robbing the grocery stores, man. All right, but nevertheless, Lord willing, the elect was edified with this here lesson. I'll go ahead and close out by saying, Call halal Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And citation, much love for you, I can push in this truth and sincerity over the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. Till next time, I say, stay strong. Shalom.